Hey, Divi Nation. I am BJ, and this is This Week in WordPress. This week has been pretty big in the WordPress world, and with with WordCamp US having just finished up, and I am going to talk about that, the state of the word, and all of the news, resources, and tutorials that came out this week in WordPress that will make your life just a little bit easier. So let's get to it. All right, guys. So like I said, WordCamp US just went off. Oh man, let me gather my mouth here. WordCamp US just finished up from the weekend. We were on December 1st through 3rd up in Nashville, Tennessee, and those of you who were there know what an absolutely fantastic time it was. We had fun. The Divi Nation met up a couple, 3, 4 dozen times throughout the weekend. We had breakfast, we played arcade games, and it was just absolutely fabulous to meet all of you guys. We gave away t-shirts, and it was awesome. I mean, I'm here representing in my WordCamp US shirt here. And the weekend was phenomenal. I had been to local WordCamps before, but never anything like WordCamp US. The national one was just off the charts. So I wanted to talk about the big thing first that happens at WordCamp US, which is Matt Mullenweg's State of the Word. Every year he gives a recap of what happened in WordPress the year before and kind of outlines what's coming up for the next year. And when he gave his 2017 State of the Word, which you can find the link for in the description of this video, you will be able to see everything that he talked about. Now, the main thing that was coming up in the State of the Word that they're focusing on for the next year, is Gutenberg. The new page builder that they're working on and post builder with blocks. We are excited about it. And if you've been watching this stream since we started a couple of months ago, you'll probably know that Gutenberg did not have the best reception at the very beginning, if you've been keeping up with it at all. The first version that I ever tried was 0.6, and I believe they're at 1.8 right now, maybe 1.9. And it was really interesting to see them do a live demo during the State of the Word. I did miss the Gutenberg talk that was during the day on Friday, and the live streams don't seem to be updating enough to show the Friday morning ones. So I'm waiting on those to go live so that I can rewatch it with Morton, whose last name I can't remember. But he has mentioned and talked about it in the State of the Word because of how great his talk was. I'm impressed by what I saw. I've been using Gutenberg myself over the last few days to work with and get used to, because it is coming and there's no way that we can avoid it. So we might as well fall in line and use it ourselves. So I'm messing with it, and it is a lot better than it used to be, y'all. It is much safer. I say safe in terms of I'm not losing content anymore. It is easier and smoother, and there are just features in it that work really well. There's a lot that don't. It's still beta, but I am really optimistic about the positive outcome that this could have. The other things that were talked about in the State of the Word, they talked about the 4.8 and 4.9 releases that we've been talking about a lot in the stream here, where there are going to be some upcoming posts on the Elegant Themes blog about the new changes that 4.9 made, things like that. Just how 4.8 and 4.9 were not huge feature releases. Like, they didn't change how the world saw WordPress like 5.0 is going to do, but they ran through the changes, and you can see that 2017 was a great year for WordPress users, which is just awesome. So if you haven't seen it yet, it's about an hour and a half long with everything, including the Q&A session. But I highly suggest that you go check out Matt Mullenweg's State of the Word 2017 address. It's on his website. Like I said, mattma.tt. It's there's a link in the description here or wherever it is, wherever you're seeing this at, and you can also check it out on the WordCamp US site. There are links everywhere under the live stream. So I thought it was interesting and very much worth mentioning. And they're moving forward over the year. He talked about the next few things that are going on in WordPress over the next year, and it is really going to be focused in on customization and making the users very happy and have a great experience. So as a UX guy, I'm super interested in user experience. I'm really, really excited to see where that goes and what we can do to integrate with it here at Elegant Themes so that we continue making you guys the best software available for WordPress. One of the things I also saw that as I was going through looking at the WordCamp US recaps and the State of the Word responses and just the Divi Nation community posts, and we were all uploading all of our photos to Facebook together, and we are going to have a recap on the Elegant Themes blog soon. We'll get it up so that you guys can see how much fun you guys are. It was absolutely fantastic, and the community is the best part about WordCamp. I think that I didn't go to a single panel except for State of the Word. I saw no talks during the weekend because I was hanging out with you guys. I was playing. I was talking with the community. I was making friends, and I did not get to sit in a single panel. So I'm really glad that they do the live stream so that I can catch up on that. But that said, that brings me into my next topic. I have a post in the blog. Nope. No, I don't. I have a post in the description of this that from Jesselyn.blog. Jesselyn is awesome. She is a 12-year-old WordPress user, and she went and interviewed women in tech at WordCamp. She was interviewing users and developers and coders and designers and organizers, and they are awesome. If you check the description here, click the link and watch some of Jesselyn's interviews. They are wonderful, and they're really insightful. Actually, one of the things that I like most about watching these is just the heartfelt responses that the community gave in terms of what WordPress and our community means and why they got into tech. And it is just delightful, you guys. I think that it's something that y'all should definitely check out, because the WordCamp community, the meetup community, the Divi Nation in particular are all about making sure that everyone has a place, that with it being open source, we want everything to be available to everyone. So seeing these kinds of women in tech interviews being done by a 12-year-old are just heartwarming, so that I just love it, you guys. Y'all need to check that out. Talking about Gutenberg, there is an article on WP Shout, where they're talking about how Gutenberg changes everything. And I'm not entirely sure if it changes absolutely everything, but they really break down. I mean, this is a long post on how Gutenberg changes everything and that it's good now, because it was like I was saying earlier, it has changed so much in the last few releases. They did say in the State of the Word address that we're looking at about 12 more iterations, 12 more weekly releases. So we're looking at somewhere maybe around April to be able to get the Gutenberg plugin included in core. So that's not very long, but at the same time, it's a really long time. So there's a lot that can be done in 12 releases. There's a lot that has been done in 18. Really 12 releases since I started using it. It went from being terrible to being usable right now. You can use it. I think that we are going to be fine. And they talk in the WP Shout article about page builder themes like Divi, talking about how the the WordPress plugin and theme community are going to change. And that's true. We are going to change. We are going to adapt. And that's okay. That's great, because we're going to be able to bring way more usability and innovation to you guys. It's talking about how themes need to change. And this is something that's really interesting to me, is because there are 11,000 theme forest themes that they mention and 50 contact form plugins. We don't need that many. I mean, we need Divi, right? We need one theme. You guys know that. But I mean, everything on ThemeForest, as they say, the quote that they have is, a bulk of which are virtually identical, arbitrarily and badly coded and overstuffed. That's true. And Gutenberg, what it's going to do is allow people to look at the bare bones essentials and do stuff for themselves. They talk about how there's not really any true front-end editing in Gutenberg like they're saying there is. And that is really interesting, because with Divi, we offer front-end building, we offer front-end editing, and that's what I use. I use a lot, pretty much only the visual builder, where I can see the changes go live, not go live, but when I hit save, they go live as I'm making them, and it makes my life so much easier and better. If you don't use the visual builder, I highly suggest giving it a shot. I talked to a lot of people over the weekend who don't, and who are still using the backend builder, the classic builder, whatever you want to call it, and it's great, but the visual builder has come a long way. It is so fantastic now, and the front end building has made my design just better, just straight up being able to see it as I do it. It's kind of like when I was in grad school writing papers, I would be able to put everything out and then like move blocks up and down because I could see how the paper worked together. I can do that in the visual builder, and right now the Gutenberg is not a front end builder. They talk about it being a front end editor, and it's not right now. So hopefully that kind of thing will be fixed for people who don't have Divi, but for you guys, y'all are already using it. That's great. You know, it's awesome. So try to take advantage of that. Jack in the comments on YouTube here was mentioning that Visual Builder's inline text editing, that it'll be better when the text editing is fixed. What do you mean, Jack? I haven't actually run into any problems personally with that, but I know that, my experience on my sites isn't the same as yours. If you could elaborate, maybe we'll be able to know about it, the particular issues that you have. But I use the inline text editing quite a bit. I've had a couple of moments where my keyboard shortcuts don't necessarily register, but that's about it. But I would love to see if we could at least figure out what it was up with yours when you do that. That said, check out the Gutenberg editor on the Gutenberg article on that Gutenberg is good on WP Shout. It really is good stuff. For those of you who are just joining us, this is the This Week in WordPress stream. This week we're talking about WordCamp US and all sorts of other awesome stuff that happened this week. I'm still in the news section for new things that were going on, and I'll be moving shortly into the tutorial section as well as the resource section. So I've got a lot of links in the description of this video. If you want to check any of those out, go ahead and click on all of them. Give all of the community who put these things together this week as much love as you possibly can. And get back to the news. Thank you for joining us. Jack has responded in the comments here that it adds an extra line, space, etc. There is that going on. You have talked to the support forum, and it says it's to be addressed. That is something. At least it is a known issue, and we're working on it. I haven't had extra lines added in on mine like that whenever I've done it, but I always start mine in the tiny MCE when I pull up the modal and and then I do visual editing after that, after I get the initial text in. So that might be where mine is coming from. I haven't had those particular issues that you have, so that might be a small workaround to be able to figure out until that gets, baseline foundationally fixed. Okay, so sorry, I was reading the comments again. Moving forward, there is a really cool news site, or a news post that was posted on Pagely this week. They studied 11 million social shares. And I am really, really interested in this article because it came out yesterday, and I love looking at social metrics, that I am really a nerd on social analytics. And I was talking this weekend with my content manager, those of you who know Nathan from all of our other streams, an amazing blog and team that he's put together. Not sucking up at all since he hired me. But he's put together a lot, and I was talking to him this weekend about sharing analytics and just how interested I am in this data that we can get. And Pagely just must have heard our conversation and written up this entire case study. And it was talking specifically about the idea of open sharing, private sharing, and then what's called dark social, dark traffic. So I've recently become interested in dark traffic as well, because those are the ones where people copy and paste links and send it to other people. You send a link in instant message. Yep, those instant IM programs, those kind of things. We can't track any of the metrics on those other than, visits and what happens after that, after they actually arrive at the site. There's private sharing, where you do things on, sending with text messages, email, and using the share buttons on sites. And then there's open sharing, on Facebook, sharing posts with all of your friends, family, to your business pages, that kind of stuff. And they were talking a lot about how these different media, these different methods, I suppose, of sharing are used by different kinds of people. That generally they talk about with people in society topics that they're likely to share, like religious studies, human rights, and self-help stuff on their private social, but they share contents about ethics on open social. On jobs and education, on private social stuff, they're likely to share standardized tests, job listing, resumes, portfolios, this kind of stuff. And then on the open, they're sharing content about colleges and universities and study programs, where not necessarily shooting people resumes and links. They're just talking about them. So it's really interesting to see the difference in what people are sharing and how. So if you want to get any ideas on those kind of metrics, then hit the Pagely link in the description and look at them. They call it the new era of social sharing, because it's super, super interesting. It's kind of like the Aaron Burr song, The Room Where It Happens, where stuff is going on behind closed doors that we don't really know about. And at least now we can see, so that we can target our audiences and we can target our readers to know how and why we want to get our content shared, which is, the marketing nerd in me looking at it and being like, oh, most people in the Northeast are sharing privately, but most people in the West, in Nevada and Wyoming, and I think it's New Mexico, yes, are sharing openly. They're the most shared like that. It's super cool that we can know this kind of stuff and then target specifically. So if you're the marketer for your firm, for your company, for you, sole proprietor, solopreneurship, look at this article. You're going to get a lot out of it, and if you're a data nerd like me, then just being able to read it will be super interesting. There's also one thing, I'm not going to talk a lot about it because there's not a lot to say, but in his State of the Word address, Matt mentioned that WordPress as a whole is now 29% of the open internet, that we're 4% away from being a full third of the internet. And Torque Mag released a link today, 3 days ago, I'm sorry, that 54 of the top 100 companies in the INC 5000, and I'm not sure I'm making a fool of myself right now. The Inc. 5000, INC 5000, y'all are gonna yell at me in the comments. But 54 of the top 100 companies are using WordPress. That their sites use WordPress as their CMS, which is just awesome. I love that it is the majority. I love that we are there at such a high level, and that proves what a lot of the naysayers they prove the naysayers wrong, so that we can and backs up what we've always said, is that this is an amazing, amazing piece of software. So check that out. 54 out of 100. Them's good odds. So sorry for that. So now I want to move into the tutorial section of the stream. And those of you who are just joining us, this is the second part of the stream where I talk about stuff that you can do that you may need to know or may need to refresh yourself on, how to make your WordPress experience, your website, your business just run a little more smoothly. And so this week, I'm going to give myself a little pat on the back because I'm the host, and if I can't do that, what can I do? Because of WordCamp, we had published on the Elegant Themes blog a how to make the best WordCamp talk proposal possible. And with it being WordCamp US this last week, and a lot of other WordCamps are coming up in the spring, they're pretty much going on all the time, y'all. My English background really got just got fired up. So I gave my first WordCamp talk a couple of months ago in Birmingham, Alabama, and so I learned a lot from doing that. And combining that being my first tech talk with my English experience on giving conference presentations, I wanted to write up this WordCamp talk proposal article. And the reason I'll comment on why I'm laughing in a second. The reason that I wanted to do this is because I got a comment from a student one time. Most of what I taught was freshman composition and sophomore world literature. That was most of what I taught when I was teaching. And I had a student who graduated and wrote me years ago. We went to seminary and came back and said that he really appreciated me making them write undergraduate paper proposals, because when he got to graduate school, that was a big part of what he did, because they were having to give these presentations, and no other teacher had made me do that. And I really think that that's something that not everyone is exposed to at any given time, that maybe even before now, that you've never really thought about what makes a proposal. So I took some of my failed ones that got completely rejected in to conferences over the years and put them in this post so you could see why they're bad, versus some that were actually published and actually got to present, including this most recent one, so that you'll see what some tips and tricks are to be able to really get approved and accepted, not approved, get accepted to the next WordCamp or other tech talk or conference that you want to present at. John in the YouTube comments was mentioning that has always been very curious about the speaker process. Is there anything in particular that you're thinking about, John, that you've been curious about? Is it prep, or is it the proposal process? Is it the actual speaking and being in front of folks? I'd be happy to talk about my experiences with it. As you can see, I'm kind of a big cartoon character, so if mine goes on WordPress.tv, you'll see the giant bouncing cartoon character on there as well. But I was laughing a minute ago is that Meetup Central mentioned that Automatic should acquire Divi and call it a day, and then called it Gutenbergerless. And that just made me funny, because it's like, why can't they have a hamburger? This is how my brain works. But John answered, said talking about how to get started and what happens overall. For me, it is coming up with something. The first idea that I tend to come up with, the first step that I do is come up with an idea. And it's not just any idea. I mean, you obviously can tell that I can talk about pretty much anything at any given time. And I will always try to think about a topic that I've had a question about, or that I've had to look up on the internet. Because, maybe it's being a teacher for so long, it's the idea of, if you have that question, then somebody else in the room has that question too. And so I want to help people. My whole shtick is really wanting to help people. So when I started, my talk was on taking soft skills and making opportunities out of them, because hard skills are great. You can be trained on that, but a lot of people don't think that they have a lot to offer outside of, say, being really good at Adobe Premiere. But that's not the case. And so I wanted to talk about how I leveraged, like, my personality, being a giant cartoon character and being able to talk about anything, into career opportunities. So the start for me was thinking about something that I knew about, cared about, and thought that other people would get something out of. After that, go look at the post. You mentioned liking the tips in there. That look at the post and see, how to write out the proposal, because that's the next thing. Is you're gonna have a really bad draft of it at first. Like, you always will. I do. My draft's terrible. You can ask my wife. My drafts are garbage. They're word vomit. And then I can go back and fix it. So once I've gone back and fixed it, I have it out, and I need to. It's time to fix it, rather. I try to narrow it down and really dig in on what the most coherent and concise points are. And I say coherent in the understandable way, the most relatable ones, because there's a lot about my experience or my research that may not affect other people. So as I'm going through the talk itself and the proposal, I narrow it down into as niche as I can. So I will, in my proposal, I focused in on honestly the Elegant Themes application that I put in the process of me doing that, and how I wrote my cover letter and things like that, and why, the reasoning behind it. So the big thing is explaining why. This is, I mentioned it in my article, that it's me putting on my Professor Beej hat, and that's what this is, because and I'm doing it again here, because when you say something in your presentation, when you're prepping your presentation itself, beforehand, before anything goes on, you have to assume that your audience is stupid. The way that I've always told my students was that when you're writing your paper, assume that your audience, that you're writing to the stupidest human being that you can possibly write to. And that what that's going to do is make sure that you explain everything in the most amount of detail that you possibly can. So when you're putting a slide together, you got your proposal, you're saying how great everything is that you do there, and you get accepted. When you're putting the proposal together, or once you're putting the talk together, make sure that you always explain why. If you answer no other questions, if you could say one thing, you have a one slide presentation that you talk for 30 minutes on, and if you explain why that's important and why they can take that and it's important to their lives, you'll have a successful talk. So if you take nothing else away from that article and anything else, I want to emphasize on the why. The reasoning behind it is by far the most important thing. You can be telling them about being a goat rancher and making cheese, as long as you can tell them why that's applicable to their WordPress sites. And I think that you could have a successful talk just with that alone, if that makes any kind of sense. And on Facebook, Angry Apparel just made a comment about loving my Spider-Man lamp. I think it's over here. Thank you. My mom made that for me when I was like 14 years old, so I've kept it. I love it. So that said, moving on through some of the other tutorials, not to get caught. I get caught on the teaching mode there. There is a WP Beginner article that I really wanted to note because of something I saw this morning, actually. WP Beginner put an article out about how to accept Bitcoin payments on WordPress, and they talk a lot about it. They talk about a lot of the reasons behind it, the plugins that you can use. And I just think it's important because Bitcoin hit about $14,000 a Bitcoin today. So probably a good idea to learn how to accept it, Looking at the comments, I also wanted to point out that Meetup Central was talking about Automatic may hamper third-party efforts like Divi. I don't think that's going to be the case. We're actually excited to see what's coming up with with Gutenberg because we're excited to see how we can implement Divi modules with it. We just have to see what the finished product is going to be before we can say anything or know anything. I can't even say anything, but we don't expect hampering to happen. And Mohammed mentions about more options for dividers. We're working on that, Mohammed. There is a feature update that you should look for pretty soon for section dividers. That said, the Bitcoin stuff, do that. Also, some other tutorials that, I'm not going to go into in detail, but, adding Facebook comments to your WordPress site, where if you don't like the normal WordPress comments, I use Discuss because it goes everywhere, and some places I don't want to see my beautiful shining Facebook face. Allowing users to delete their WordPress accounts and adding load more posts buttons. We can do that. Video superhero, I don't know if we've discussed YouTube video backgrounds. I think we've talked about that. I know we can do video backgrounds. I think they do have to be uploaded into your media library. We are taking note. We'll see what happens. I'm not on the dev team, so I can't say anything. About that. Meetup Central, I agree with you. I came from Visual Composer as well. It did very well for what I needed it to do. When I found Divi, I just kind of fell in love even before I started working here, so it was like serendipity. But I'm with you on that. They have updated Visual Composer to where it works a lot better than it did when I came to it over about a year ago. But yeah, we have a lot of confidence in Divi. I mean, that's not even a company line. That is, I have confidence in Divi because it's a good product, and I was a user beforehand. So you're great. I'm right there with you. And one of the main articles I wanted to talk about in here in the tutorial section. So for those of you who, the final one, so for those of you just joining us, I'm finishing up the tutorial section of This Week in WordPress, where I've gone around and looked at as many of the articles in WordPress that I've been able to find and put together news, tutorials, and resources that I think will make your life better. So at the end of the tutorial section, there is a link that's called Ways to Set Yourself Up for a WordPress disaster. And the number one thing on here, this is one of my biggest pet peeves, is you will set yourself up for a WordPress disaster if you use plugins to solve every problem. This is me pointing my finger at you and poking and telling you, please don't do that. Plugins are the entire reason I moved from Blogspot to WordPress like 8 or 9 years ago, I think. Maybe it was 9 years ago. Yeah, 9 years ago. And plugins are awesome. Widgets are awesome. Oh, I just hit my mic. I got excited. But they don't fix everything. They can't fix everything. And even if they can fix everything, they shouldn't fix everything. It's like Ian Malcolm in Jurassic Park saying, just because you could do something, did you ever stop to think about whether you should? That's the way I feel about plugins. That some plugins are awesome. Like taking Bitcoin payments, I'm not able to write a payment solution in PHP and JavaScript to take Bitcoin payment. Not going to happen. But what I can do is remove comments in PHP. What you can do are make small tweaks to up the memory limit in WordPress. So if there are simple fixes to it, a lot of times on the blog, on the Elegant Themes blog, we will have a solution for it and show you how to do that within your WordPress files. What that does for the most part is keep your WordPress install low on using resources. It'll make your page load faster, and it will make your server have less of a load on it for when you get that wonderful Reddit bump and they try to crash your site. But really it's a performance thing where it's just over time it slows everything down. So if you use a plugin to solve everything, please Google it. A lot of times our blog will come up, cross our fingers on that one, that so that you can see how to fix it. and it will give you a lot of experience in making yourself comfortable with WordPress and how it works, because honestly, that's how I got to where I am in terms of being able to use WordPress. Is when I wanted to do something and I knew there was a plugin for it, I wanted to see how the plugin worked. So I went in, maybe broke my site, and then learned how to fix it from there. So I wanted to point out that they talk about that being the number one way that you're setting yourself up for a WordPress disaster, because eventually those plugins are not going to be supported. There's going to be an update that breaks them. It is just inevitable. It happens to pretty much everything, and I want you to not have that happen to you. They also talk about directly editing the files of a parent theme. You guys, use a child theme. Please go to divi.space and you get a Divi child theme. Use the Orbisius child theme creator, whatever you need to do, but use a child theme. Install it there. We have a child theme tutorial on the Elegant Themes blog. Just use a child theme, please, 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 please. What that does, if you're not familiar with child themes, is it takes your main theme and basically takes every customization for it and puts it in a different folder, where anything that you change is not going to be affecting the main theme, so that if you break something, then you can always revert back to your main theme. If there's an update, it doesn't wipe all of your changes out because it updates those files. So it's super important that you do this. So do that, divi.space or Orbisius, or just check our blog, and we have a manual installation blog on there if you search in the archives. They talk about failing to stick to a backup and update routine. There's a post on the blog this week, maybe it came out today, about how to back up your work, how to restore from a backup. So take a look at that if you're not within that routine that you have. Basic security measures like word fence, security, and stop paying attention, stuff like that. But definitely worth setting up or clicking on the link in the description and seeing all of the cool stuff that you don't want to do. Well, the terrible stuff that you don't want to do to set yourself up for a WordPress disaster. There have been a lot of comments while I was talking. I'm just going to take a quick second. Divi is powerful, a lot on browser resources. We are working on that. Recently, remember that we even minified a lot of the CSS and JavaScript, so we're happy about that. I do want menus and more options. If you want a few more options in terms of menus and categories and blog stuff, you could also always check out Extra, Mohammed. We do have a few extra things in there that that might work for you. Uses the Divi builder, everything along with it. So check that out. And yeah, Video Superhero, it does take up quite a bit of bandwidth to do that. There are ways to, you're a Video Superhero, so you know all about compressing and bitrate and making sure that that you can run it as efficiently as you can. There are some like Slider Revolution. I've had good luck with that myself. And you also might want to look into something called Cinemagraphs. I don't have a link in this one. I know Nathan and I were talking about it on a previous stream. Just Google Cinemagraphs. And what you can do from it is take a still from a video and then only select a certain area of it that you want to animate. So let's say if my hand is the video, I wanted to pause it like this, but only wanted these two fingers to move, I could just pick that area to animate, and it would be on a loop. I keep moving my thumb. So these three fingers to animate, then you could do that. Cinemagraphs are great to save bandwidth like that, depending on what kind of video you want as a background. So that might be a solution for you. It is absolutely awesome to use. I love them. They're beautiful. And one of my favorite cinemagraphs that I found is what Nathan and I were talking about on the stream, I think about a month and a half ago, was a Coke can hovering in the air with just the liquid being animated, pouring out in a loop over and over again. I thought it was really cool. So that might solve that for you, Video Superhero. If not, it looks like there's some comments in there as well. So hopefully we'll be able to get that, because I would also like to be able to use YouTube videos like that. But I use Cinemagraphs and stuff like that for right now, or very small custom uploaded to my hosting stuff. move. Sorry, reading comments. I get caught up in you guys talking, and then I then I move. Then I get distracted and talk with you. So the resources. Moving into the resources for everybody who has just come in. I wanted to. This is the last section of the stream that I tend to go through because it's not a how-to section. It's not the brand new news stuff that it's like, oh my goodness, we got the state of the word. It's awesome. But I want to talk about these resources because this is the stuff that, the way I always put resources is, this is the stuff that I would share on Twitter and on Facebook that I want you to know about, that I just want you guys to know that. I don't know Video Superhero. Sorry. So I want you guys to know about all of this. Video Superhero asked about using Vimeo backgrounds and why not us? And I can't answer that question. Not on the dev team, but honestly, I don't know. I wish I could. We're working on stuff like that. We have a long list of features that we are working on, and we've been doing updating weekly, and I honestly have no idea what's down the pipeline. So before I put my foot in my mouth one way or the other, we know that it is a thing people want. So that is as much as I know about this being on the content team. So in the resources section, this is not new. This is not something that I knew about before this weekend, but it's new to me, and I found out about it this week, and gosh darn it, I want you guys to know about it too. I was sitting talking with Matt Cromwell from WordPress and Give, and he was telling me about a website named wapu.us, wapu.us. It spells Wapu's. And Wapu is the cute Pokemon-like character that you've probably seen everywhere on WordPress stuff. And I absolutely, I used to not like him. I absolutely hated him, to be honest. That's why I was going to say I hated him. And the more I've become a part of this community, the more I love the customization and just fun that people have with Wapu. And wapu.us, Wapu's, is an one-stop shop to be able to buy whatever you want for Wapu's. There are vector images. It collects everything that's been going on that people have made about it. It is great, and people have made some really, really cool Wapu's. Even the new Nashville, Tennessee WordCamp US one is up there already. I found one called Wapu Obi-Wan Poo, and it's got a lightsaber, and it's just fantastic. There's R2 Wapu, I think is his name. There are some really cool ones on here. And Matt was telling me about someone ordering Wapu tights, Wapu leggings that even had the tail like printed on it, yellow leggings that had the tail and everything. So people love them some Wapu. There is all sorts of stuff on wapu.us that you can see, and if you haven't clicked the link in the description to go there, do it now. It's just super cool. You can buy all sorts of stuff too, but really I used it because I downloaded some vectors that I wanted to play with in Illustrator and Photoshop. So definitely check those out. I might be playing with a Jedi Wapu a lot in Photoshop right now. That being said, the next thing that I wanted to do that was actually published this week is from Max Galleria. It is an article called 25 Common WordPress Image Errors and Issues and How to Fix Them. This is something every single one of you should know. This is something I should know, and all of us should keep in mind, because when we add images to WordPress, they go crazy. I don't know what it is about the media library. I don't know anything at all about that part of the code, but something makes them flip upside down. Sometimes there's an HTTP error. Oh, that's the first one. I actually was just saying that out of what happened to me earlier today. It exceeds the upload max file size, how to change default image sizes, fixing WordPress featured image appearing twice. We all have had that happen. Every single one of us have had that happen, and it's just frustrating. Adding a favicon image to WordPress, all of these things that come up that everyone wants to know about images in WordPress are on Max Galleria. So click in that underneath the resources section in the description here and fix all of that. I saw that, I don't know if he is still watching, that SJ James joined in on the live stream on Elegant Themes, and I uploaded a picture to WordPress. There's a picture of him on the recap post that is going to be published on the Elegant Themes blog, and it published upside down. It was me and him making stupid faces at the Divi Nation meetup, and it published upside down, and almost didn't fix it. Almost, I did, because I was like, that would be funny, but then I realized it would also be unprofessional. But with it being SJ, I was like, that'd be really funny if it were just upside down, with it being just him. So if you're still watching, SJ, got you covered, man. There's a lot of them on here about resources, about looking at what the future of WordPress is. Freemie has published an interview with Creative Mind CEO David Rashty, where it's actually titled, "You Shouldn't Put All of Your Eggs in the WordPress Basket." He starts talking about Magento and some of the other tools out there. And it's always good to know what's out there, what's happening, where everything is going. And talking about dividing between WordPress and Magento. I talk a lot in some of my articles about JavaScript frameworks, and not necessarily just the front end frameworks like React that we've all been hearing about, but I like the back end stuff as well. And I think they're important. It's very important to know about all of this stuff and what's out there. And should we put all the eggs in the WordPress basket? No, absolutely not. All of our eggs shouldn't be there because we don't own WordPress. We don't know what's going to happen, but WordPress is awesome. It's not going anywhere, but it is, 29% of the internet and growing. I think we gained like 3% this year alone. So we're not going anywhere, but it's a good idea to think about that. Just, food for thought, really, on that one more than anything else. There's an article that Smashing did about the evolution of the user experience. Love user experience. Super long article. Talks about everything. Just click on it and read it. I cannot do it justice. There is a big article on Smashing that they also did that I want to talk about. That just to give you a brief, because again, this is another long one. It is called Copyright Law Essentials That All Designers Should Know. Read it. Just straight up read it. Talks about what is copyright law. It's not, copyright law is not about protecting a particular expression of an idea. Is about protecting a particular expression of idea, not functional elements. That's patenting, how it applies to software design, where the differences are, talks about creativity and originality, obtaining a copyright itself, which is different than having an inherent copyright for creation. It's just really, really good. And talking about breaking it down on what rights a copyright actually provides you and what protections you get from that is something that we should know. Because again, coming from an English background, I had to learn a lot about this because of fair use. Fair use is not what people tend to think it is. If you actually look up fair use laws, you're basically not, it's not that you're allowed to do with it whatever you want as long as you're doing it for the common good or for teaching. There are very specific things that you can do within the law. And honestly, most of us break the law with fair use every time we use it. So that's why it's very important to know what's going on. So read this on Smashing and learn probably just a little bit on that you may not know already. I wanted to also give a shout out to WP Lift. They did a full-on Divi extensions article, and I love it. It's fantastic. They talk about all sorts of add-ons and extensions, talking about content visibility. There's a PayPal for Divi module you can download. Acme Divi modules, pop-up cards, gravity forms, stuff like that. What I thought was also fantastic is that they have links to premium add-on and extension providers, which these guys are awesome. Like everybody within the Divi community, the Divi Nation is the best. Absolutely best community online. I love you. Meeting you this weekend has solidified that in my mind. I grabbed my heart, but it solidified that in my mind that you guys are the best. So when they gave a shout out, I wanted to as well to let you guys click on this link in the resources section to see they talk about Divi Booster, Divi Space and Aspen Grove Studios, Divi Framework, Divi Life, Divi Extended, Divi Cake, the Elegant Marketplace, all of this stuff that we are probably all familiar with some of. We're not all familiar with all of them. So like there were a couple like Divi Booster and Divi Extended that I wasn't familiar with until this, and now I am, and I'm super excited about it. There's so many more that if I try to name any that aren't on here, I'm just going to leave every one of them out, so I'm not going to do that. But those are the ones in the article, and there are tons more within the Facebook group communities and on our blog. Honestly, within the live cast here, the live comments on YouTube and Facebook, just that. So that was on there in the last section of resources. Now, before I finish up, I'm reaching the end of the stream and getting to the end of the resources, and I'm not going to be able to get through all of them. I have linked to so many articles on here. There is absolutely no way that I can talk about all of them in an hour and have any kind of discussion about them. So make sure that you check them out, look at all the links in the description, and give some love to the people who have put those together. And also, I want to ask you what you've been doing this week in WordPress yourself. Have you been I want to know what you've been doing. Honestly, let us know in the comments what you've been putting together, sites you've worked on, projects that you're putting together, any kind of plugins, stuff that you've discovered, just awesome stuff you've learned. Let me know. And there's a guy or lady, sorry, YouTube in the comments about my Spider-Man lampshade, and I do believe it does, sir. It's not necessarily an endorsement. It is something my mommy made me. No, you're absolutely right. I'm working on getting a new home studio set up. So that one's coming soon. And I'm actually I might be printing out that Jedi Wapu and making myself a poster because I love it so much. Which also gets to playing with things. I mean, copyright law is very confusing. And, Mark, that's awesome. AWS installations can be a pretty rough thing to deal with sometimes. I've played with some AWS buckets, and they're not the easiest things to mess with. So you have my respect on that. Also, Video Superhero talked about, y'all were talking about different providers and different plugins and stuff like that. It might be something. There are so many of the plugin marketplaces out there that there might be a Divi module for YouTube videos. I don't know if there is, but like I said, there are so many like Divi Space, Divi Extended, and Divi Booster, and all of that it might be worth checking out some of them to see if that's an option for you with either a premium plugin or a free one. That would be the best bet. Thank you for mentioning that in the comments, you guys. Thank you, Meetup Central. You're the one who mentioned that. And you're welcome, Muhammad. I do love my Spider-Man, but I do want things to be. I'm going to change things up. I'm going to have things that change every week, hopefully. I got all sorts of ideas and no time to remodel. But as I move forward in the resources, as you guys talk, I did want to finish up by talking about how to respond to online views of your business. And while this is not necessarily WordPress specific, it is incredibly important to know about. Because do you guys remember what the place called Amy's Bakery from Kitchen Nightmares? Hi, Fanswood. If you guys remember Amy's Bakery from Kitchen Nightmares, they got a lot of press from like railing on people on Yelp. There are videos on YouTube of people that I believe that it's Jimmy Fallon and Aziz Ansari reading discussions on Yelp from customers and businesses that are just hilarious. And you don't want to be that. You don't want to get into this kind of long tirade and rant with somebody else in argument. And they talk about how important online reviews are, and they are. You guys, reviewing stuff that you care about online is one of the absolute best ways to help it. Whether it's a plugin on the WordPress repository, a theme, a local business on Facebook, anything like that, Amazon, anything at all, that helps so much. Now, it's when you get a bad review or a good review that you have to, as a creator, have to be careful about it, because sometimes, they're unfair. I have some novels on Amazon, and I got a 1-star review one time, 1 star for the entire novel, because I didn't tell what color the carpet was in a particular building. 1 star. I just laughed at it, because on that one, there are a lot of problems with the books. I know that. There are problems with every book, but that wasn't one of them. I just laughed. I was like, 1 star, that's what mattered to you? It's like you wouldn't have enjoyed my book anyway. So in some cases, it just doesn't matter. They have whatever it is, whatever their opinions are. And now your first reaction will probably be an emotional one, they say. So chill for a few minutes, have a plan, write things out, and one thing that it says, own the problem. Now, I own the problem that I did not tell what color that carpet was. Other things are a little bit different than that. The main thing that they talk about, there are actually the 3 or 4, 5, and 6 on here. Let someone proofread your response, keep it short and sweet, and don't get trapped in a long discussion. Those are the main 3 things that you need to worry about. Because, first of all, let someone proofread your response. Because if somebody's angry at you on the internet, we all know what happens when you argue on the internet. Also, you might sound reasonable, might sound aggressive to them. Also, you're probably going to be aggressive if you write it quickly, and the number of times I have just written up an angry draft of an email and then sent it to my wife and been like, hey, should I send this? And she's like, no, you shouldn't. Don't do that ever, is enough to make you really think about what you're doing. So do that for response. Also, keep it short and sweet. You don't want to ramble for an hour on it. So do that, and don't get trapped in a long discussion. Once you've replied back and forth a couple of times, if the solution is not solved and they have a complaint about your business, do not continue to discuss it in public. Take it offline, email them, message them privately, have them contact your support, however you want to do it, but you don't want to get involved in that online. You'll only make yourself look bad, even if what you're doing is good. So definitely read it. And this came across my WordPress dashboard because it was published by Yoast. And if there is one business that you can trust in WordPress right now, it's Yoast. And if they say something, honestly, if they say do something, then you do it. So read this, click the link in the description, and give Yoast some love for really spelling out what a lot of us might have had to learn the hard way over the years. One last thing, Judy. It's also funny. It's my mom who would probably be the one liable for using that image. It's also funny that my mom's name is Judy. So so very astute. Thank you for that. Also, has shed some light on SEO of Divi. So many people are talking about high codes in Divi killing the SEO optimization. I have not seen a single thing personally about Divi killing SEO optimization. As long as you're doing everything right and working with best practices, I think you're going to be okay. Because one of the main things about SEO these days is that it's not just keyword, that a lot of it has to do with page speed, optimization, that you deal with a lot of content, backlinks, you're dealing with internal links, images, and it's not necessary to really, Divi should not affect it. We've done everything that we can to keep the code as light as possible while maintaining the functionality that we offer. And I don't know of anyone in particular who is being affected negatively by using Divi in particular if they're following the best practices on it. So if you do have any particular issues, I'd be happy to talk to you about it, and try to point it out. But if you use something like SEMrush, Moz, and use the Yoast plugin, I was mentioning Yoast. If you're hitting double greens on Yoast, then and making sure that you you limit your reds and oranges within the meta box, I think that you'll be pretty good on that one. And thank you, Uncle Social. I appreciate it. We do this every Friday. Speaking of, I'll just go ahead and give my sign off. That is it. Uncle Social mentioned that this was his first time in watching the show, and I really, really appreciate that. For the rest of you who are here, and it is your first time, or maybe you're returning, we do this every Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern. I go through what was published that week in the WordPress sphere and bring you the best news, tutorials, and resources on behalf of Elegant Themes, the makers of Divi, and we really just want to help you guys. I want to be your friend. So every week, I want you to do the same thing. If you can come back next week at 3 o'clock Eastern, bring links, bring whatever you've been working on and share. Some of you guys have been sharing the stuff that you've been working on and sharing your own resources with the other people in the YouTube live chat comments. Didn't have much conversation this time on Facebook, but the YouTube comments are just off the hook, you guys. Y'all have been helping each other out so much, and I really appreciate that. So your homework this week, you guys, is to be able to help each other out, find something awesome that happens this week in WordPress, and bring it back to enhance the rest of the Divi Nation, because that's what it's all about here, is you guys. You're all so fantastic, and thank you for watching. And I will definitely say hi to my mom, Hasib, and I will absolutely take care of the Judys. Judy, you guys have a fantastic weekend, and I will see you guys next Friday.